Hello everyone, and welcome to my Bold and Beautiful Today channel. I'll die if you marry her. Taylor cries and begs Ridge to not marry her. Is Brooke the target of Taylor? Will Thomas target Brooke Logan for his mother now that Taylor Hayes' heart is likely to be broken? Let's discuss what might happen next in this plot while you continue reading. The hidden unrest of Ridge Forrester. First, let's discuss Ridge Forrester's inner anguish. Ridge accepted Taylor's marriage proposal even though he didn't appear overly excited about it. However, Ridge feels bad about diagnosing Taylor with broken heart syndrome. He vowed to never subject her to that again. But he also promised Brooke something after saving her in Italy. To make their current predicament better, Ridge appears to have a deep affection for Brooke. However, I might envision broken heart syndrome returning if Ridge dumps Taylor because she has a history of it. When Ridge returned to Los Angeles, he did plan to tell Taylor Hayes the truth about his emotional blackmail. But Taylor pointed out that during his time in Italy, she planned weddings. Kelly Spencer then continued to talk about how thrilled she was to see her grandparents get married. By mentioning how much she loves him and how great their family is, Taylor didn't help. Is Brooke Logan under attack? For a long time, Taylor has been a good person. Perhaps it's time for her to do something dishonest. Her desperation is evident in the fact that she lets Thomas play games with Brooke. Thomas may have changed over the years, but he still remembers the way Brooke treated him. Brooke might be ambushed by Taylor and Thomas working together. Perhaps simply take action to make her life more difficult each time she approaches Ridge. Thomas undoubtedly possesses the skills and expertise to cause Brooke a great deal of trouble. However, these kinds of games typically don't end well. In the end, might Thomas and Taylor go too far to get rid of Brooke? When Ridge learns about their activities, what will happen? Taylor erupted through the doorway, not with the poised grace Ridge had once known, but with the raw, stumbling desperation of a soul ripped open. Her face, usually a canvas of carefully curated composure or playful charm, was now a fractured landscape of pure anguish. Tears carving glistening rivers through hastily applied makeup that smeared like war paint against a losing battle. Her eyes, those wide, expressive windows Ridge had lost himself in countless times, were now dilated pools of absolute terror, reflecting not the opulent room or Ridge's startled form but a yawning, internal abyss, a future so horrifyingly bleak it seemed to physically pull the light from the space around her, her chest heaving with ragged, near-silent sobs that shuddered through her entire frame, making her seem impossibly fragile, a porcelain doll moments from shattering on the unforgiving marble floor. She didn't walk towards him, she lurched, propelled by a force beyond conscious control, her hands trembling violently before her, fingers splayed like desperate starfish seeking purchase on a wave-tossed rock, and before Ridge could even form the first syllable of her name, a question choked with confusion and dawning dread, the dam within her burst, not with a wail, but with a guttural, wrenching sound that scraped the air raw, a sound born deep in the cavern of utter despair. Ridge. The name tore from her throat, mangled, broken, less a greeting than a final, gasping invocation, a plea hurled against the inevitable tide, and then, propelled by the sheer, suffocating weight of the image seared into her mind, him, standing tall and impossibly resolute beside her, exchanging vows, sealing a fate Taylor couldn't breathe through, the words erupted, volcanic and absolute. I'll die if you marry her. It wasn't a scream, though it filled the room with its desperate volume, it was a declaration ripped from the very core of her being, a raw nerve exposed to salt and fire, each syllable vibrating with a terrifying certainty that transcended hyperbole and landed squarely in the realm of visceral, existential truth. Her knees buckled then, not in a faint, but in a collapse of will, her body folding inwards as if physically absorbing the blow of her own pronouncement, her hands flying up to clutch at her own throat, not to silence herself, but as if physically feeling the life being choked out of her by the mere thought, her knuckles white with the intensity of the grip, nails digging into her own skin, leaving crescent moons of desperation. Please, she gasped, the word a wet, ragged thing torn from between trembling lips. Ridge, please, she repeated, crawling now, not with dignity, but with the abject surrender of someone already drowning, her tear-filled eyes locked onto his with an intensity that felt like a physical brand. Don't do this, you can't marry her. The her was spat out, not with venom, but with a profound, gut-wrenching horror, as if speaking the very concept of that union summoned a demon that would instantly consume her. "Do you understand?" she implored, her voice cracking like thin ice, each word a shard falling into the chasm of her despair, her body convulsing with another silent sob that racked her shoulders. "Do you have any idea?" Her gaze searched his face frantically, desperately seeking a flicker, a crack, anything in his expression that mirrored the cataclysm she was experiencing, anything that proved he grasped the sheer magnitude of the annihilation his choice represented. It's not about winning," she choked out, shaking her head violently, sending tear droplets flying like scattered diamonds of misery. "It's not about possession, or being petty." She struggled for breath, the air catching in her throat like broken glass. It's me, us, everything we are, everything we were, everything that could be." Her voice dropped to a shattered whisper, barely audible over the frantic hammering of her own heart echoing in her ears. "It's in you, Ridge. My life, my breath, my reason for getting up." She pressed a fist hard against her sternum, as if trying to physically contain the heart she felt was literally breaking, splintering under the unbearable pressure. "It's woven into you." The image of him at the altar, turning away from her, turning towards her, slammed into her consciousness again with physical force, a sucker punch to her soul. "Seeing you pledge your life, your love, your future, to someone else?" A low, animal moan escaped her, a sound of pure, unadulterated agony. "Watching you look into her eyes the way," she faltered, the memory of his gaze, once reserved for her, now bestowed elsewhere, too painful to articulate. "The way I know, the way I remember." She swallowed convulsively, the sound thick and painful. "It will kill me, Ridge. Not slowly. Not metaphorically." Her eyes, wide and terrified, held his with terrifying clarity. "It will stop my heart. It will erase me. I will cease to be." The finality in that last word hung in the air, heavier than lead, colder than ice. "Because you," she whispered, the sound raw and broken, "are my life. And if you give yourself to her, truly, completely, forever, then what is left for me? What air is there to breathe? What light is there to see? It's not living, Ridge. It's waiting. Waiting in a darkness so complete, so suffocating." She trailed off, another wave of silent weeping shaking her, her shoulders hunched as if bearing the weight of the world collapsing inward. "Please," she begged again, the word a mantra of desperation, her hand reaching out blindly, trembling fingers brushing against his arm, a touch seeking not seduction, but salvation, an anchor in the storm threatening to pull her under forever. "Look at me. See me. See what this is doing. See what it will do." Her voice rose again, edged with the hysteria of pure terror. "I'm not strong enough. Don't ask me to be. Don't make me witness that final goodbye, dressed up as a beginning." The thought of the wedding, the ceremony, the public declaration, was a fresh agony. "I won't survive it, Ridge. I can't." "It's not a threat," she insisted, her eyes wide with the terrifying honesty of her conviction. It's biology. It's physics. My heart, my soul, they are tied to yours. Sever that tie, bind it to another." She shook her head, fresh tears spilling over. "There's nothing left but dust. Silence. An ending." She collapsed forward then, her forehead pressing against the cool fabric of his trousers, her body racked with silent, violent tremors, her breath coming in short, desperate gasps that sounded like the death rattle of her hope. "Don't sign my death sentence," she breathed against the fabric, the words muffled but vibrating with unbearable intensity. "Please, for the love of whatever was ever real between us, whatever flicker of it still remains, don't marry her." The plea hung in the devastated silence she had created, a raw, bleeding wound in the center of the room, a testament to a love so consuming, so absolute, that its denial wasn't just heartbreak, but an extinction-level event for her very being. The sheer, unvarnished vulnerability in her collapse, the terrifying certainty in her declaration of self-annihilation, transformed the space around them into a crucible of unbearable emotion, where the air itself seemed to vibrate with the aftershock of her desperate, soul-shattering cry, "I'll die if you marry her." It wasn't just words, It was the exposed, beating heart of her existence laid bare at his feet, pulsing with a terrifying fragility, a life held hostage by the single, devastating choice he was poised to make. Ridge Forrester, the perpetually torn patriarch, stands poised to shatter Taylor Hayes's fragile world once again. His acceptance of her marriage proposal, devoid of genuine joy and steeped in the guilt of diagnosing her broken heart syndrome, a condition he inadvertently triggered and swore never to reignite, was less a promise of forever and more a desperate pause button. That pause, however, was violently interrupted by the gravitational pull of Brooke Logan in Italy, where a rescue mission reignited ancient flames and elicited a contradictory, fervent vow to fix the tangled mess with Brooke. Ridge's soul, as ever, is a battleground, but the sheer weight of his history with Brooke, the undeniable magnetic force between them, and the promise whispered amidst Italian chaos heavily tipped the scales away from Taylor. This inevitable rejection isn't just a romantic setback for Taylor, it's a potential medical catastrophe waiting to happen, a diagnosis Ridge himself fears delivering, making the fallout exponentially more dangerous. And it's precisely within this cauldron of desperation, medical vulnerability, and profound maternal love that the specter of Thomas Forrester emerges, not just as a changed man, but as a fiercely protective son uniquely positioned, and perhaps chillingly willing, to become Taylor's avenging instrument, targeting Brooke Logan with ruthless precision to shield his mother from the shattering blow Ridge is about to deliver. Thomas's transformation is undeniable, a hard-won journey from obsession to relative stability, largely centered on his son Douglas. Yet, beneath the surface of reformation, the deep, festering scars inflicted by Brooke Logan remain. Her relentless crusades against him, branding him unstable and dangerous, her interference in his life and relationships, particularly his pursuit of hope, are not forgotten wounds, they are merely scabbed over. Brooke's unwavering conviction in his inherent darkness, even during his genuine efforts to change, created a legacy of resentment. This history doesn't vanish with good behavior, it simmers, a potent fuel source waiting for ignition. Seeing his mother, the woman who stood by him through his darkest hours, now teetering on the precipice of a potentially fatal heartbreak because of Brooke Logan? That is the spark. Thomas's protective instincts towards Taylor are primal. He witnessed firsthand her devastation after Ridge's previous abandonments. The knowledge that another rejection could literally kill her transforms Brooke from a persistent adversary into an existential threat to his mother's life. The changed Thomas might eschew the overtly psychotic schemes of his past, but the resourcefulness, the intimate knowledge of Brooke's vulnerabilities, and the capacity for ruthless strategy honed during his obsessive years are still very much part of his arsenal. He wouldn't need to return to full-blown mania, a cold, calculated focus, driven by a son's love and a simmering vendetta, would be weapon enough. Taylor, meanwhile, stands on shifting sands. Her recent era of compassion and understanding, her goodness, is fundamentally tied to her belief in Ridge's commitment and the stability of their reunited family, a stability showcased by Kelly's innocent, effusive joy over their impending wedding, joy Taylor amplified, clinging to it as proof of their destined happiness. Ridge's inevitable withdrawal won't just break her heart, it will shatter the narrative of redemption and family wholeness she's built. Faced with this humiliation, the resurgence of agonizing physical symptoms, and the terrifying prospect of her condition recurring, Taylor's famed strength could curdle into something desperate. While she might initially recoil from outright malice, her desperation could manifest as a terrifying passivity or carefully phrased despair. A tearful confession to Thomas about her fears, a whispered "I don't know how I'll survive if he leaves me for her again," or even just a defeated "Brooke always wins," could be all the green light Thomas needs. She wouldn't have to explicitly order an attack, her profound vulnerability and shared history of being wounded by Brooke could create an unspoken understanding, a tacit permission for Thomas to handle the Brooke problem. Her moral compass, skewed by survival instinct and the perceived injustice of Brooke once again stealing her future, could allow her to turn a blind eye to Thomas's methods, rationalizing them as necessary to protect her health and their family's fragile peace. The potential ambush of Brooke Logan, therefore, wouldn't necessarily be a cartoonish villain plot, but a sophisticated, multi-pronged campaign leveraging Thomas's insider knowledge and Taylor's emotional leverage. Imagine Thomas subtly manipulating situations at Forrester Creations, strategically leaking misleading information about Brooke's decisions to Ridge to undermine her professionalism, reigniting old tensions between Brooke and Hope by carefully reminding Hope of past betrayals, exploiting the mother-daughter fault lines Brooke herself created, or even using his access and design skills to subtly sabotage a critical Brooke-led project, damaging her credibility. He could exploit his connection to Douglas, subtly influencing the boy's perception of Brooke or creating scenarios where Brooke appears neglectful or unstable in front of Ridge. Socially, Taylor, armed with her medical fragility as both shield and weapon, could orchestrate chance encounters where she appears heartbreakingly frail in Brooke's presence, reinforcing Ridge's guilt and painting Brooke as the callous homewrecker endangering a sick woman. Thomas could anonymously feed salacious, perhaps partially fabricated, rumors about Brooke to the press or to Spencer publications, knowing Donna or Bill might react explosively, creating public chaos that overwhelms Brooke and distracts Ridge. The goal wouldn't just be separation, it would be the systematic destruction of Brooke's standing, her relationships, and her sanity, making her appear unstable, unreliable, and ultimately, an impossible choice for Ridge, all while maintaining plausible deniability for Taylor. However, the chilling truth is that such intricate games, born of desperation and fueled by past trauma and present fear, carry the seeds of their own catastrophic downfall. Thomas, despite his progress, operates with a history of crossing lines. The thrill of protecting his mother, the rush of finally turning the tables on Brooke, could easily blur the boundaries he's worked so hard to establish. A minor manipulation could escalate into serious sabotage with tangible consequences, lost business, legal trouble for Brooke. A planted rumor could spiral into a scandal with unintended victims. Exploiting Douglas, even subtly, risks reopening the child's own wounds and triggering a backlash from Hope that Thomas cannot control. The greatest danger lies in the potential for physical or psychological harm. An accident engineered to discredit Brooke could go terribly wrong. The relentless pressure, the gaslighting, the isolation, tactics Thomas knows well, could push Brooke towards a genuine breakdown, an outcome far darker than anything Thomas might initially intend. And Ridge Forrester, though often willfully blind, is not a fool forever. His own guilt over Taylor's condition will make him hypervigilant. A pattern of misfortune dogging Brooke, coinciding too neatly with Thomas's presence or Taylor's distress, will inevitably arouse his suspicion. The moment Ridge uncovers even a thread of the conspiracy, the fallout will be nuclear. Thomas would face not just his father's wrath, but the utter collapse of his hard-won redemption, potential legal repercussions, and the loss of crucial relationships, including possibly Douglas. Taylor, exposed as complicit, even passively, in targeting Brooke while exploiting her own illness, would be stripped of all moral high ground and sympathy, her broken heart syndrome now overshadowed by a perceived manipulative cruelty. Ridge's guilt would transform into furious betrayal, likely propelling him straight back to Brooke with a protective ferocity that obliterates any remaining chance with Taylor. Ultimately, the path of Thomas targeting Brooke for Taylor is a seductive poison. It offers the illusion of control and protection in the face of devastating loss. It leverages potent weapons, a son's fierce love, a mother's desperate survival instinct, and a deep well of shared resentment against a common enemy. Yet, it is a path paved with ethical quicksand and booby-trapped with the ever-present risk of catastrophic escalation. The games Thomas might play are not mere pranks, they are psychological warfare with real-world consequences. While the desire to shield Taylor from unbearable pain is understandable, choosing Brooke as the scapegoat and target ignores the central role of Ridge's own indecision and broken promises. Thomas and Taylor's potential alliance, born of shared victimhood, threatens to transform them from sympathetic figures into the very villains Brooke once accused them of being. The true cost of such an ambush wouldn't just be Brooke's temporary suffering, it would be the permanent corrosion of Thomas's soul, the utter destruction of Taylor's integrity, and the final, irreparable shattering of the fragile family bonds they both claim to fight for. When Ridge's choice inevitably breaks Taylor's heart, the answer to healing cannot lie in breaking Brooke Logan, that path leads only to a deeper, darker abyss where everyone loses everything. The true test for Thomas and Taylor lies not in targeting Brooke, but in finding a way to weather the storm without surrendering their hard-won humanity to the seductive, destructive allure of revenge. The hidden unrest of Ridge Forrester. First, let's discuss Ridge Forrester's inner anguish. Ridge accepted Taylor's marriage proposal even though he didn't appear overly excited about it. However, Ridge feels bad about diagnosing Taylor with broken heart syndrome. He vowed to never subject her to that again. But he also promised Brooke something after saving her in Italy. To make their current predicament better, Ridge appears to have a deep affection for Brooke. However, I might envision broken heart syndrome returning if Ridge dumps Taylor because she has a history of it. When Ridge returned to Los Angeles, he did plan to tell Taylor Hayes the truth about his emotional blackmail. But Taylor pointed out that during his time in Italy, she planned weddings. Kelly Spencer then continued to talk about how thrilled she was to see her grandparents get married. By mentioning how much she loves him and how great their family is, Taylor didn't help.